What's up, everyone? Welcome into DodgerHeads presented by DodgerBlue.com. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined this morning by Anthony Witrado, here to react to some breaking news via Fabian Ardaya of The Athletic. River Ryan to undergo Tommy John surgery, according to the Dodgers. Anthony, we kind of expected this given all of the sort of trickle of information that we had received, but to kind of see it in writing for a kid who 1.33 ERA across 20 innings in his first four starts, sort of rising up through the prospect ranks, finally making it to the major leagues. We'll get into like the recovery process in a minute, but this just sucks for the kid. And that's the thing that jumps out to me first.
Yeah, this has really got it's a blow, right? Because not just for the organization, like you said, but for him, because he did not come up as like this super, can't miss blue chip type prospect. He
Yeah.
kind of worked his way up to become like sort of a hot name and a guy who people started to talk about. And then for him to finally make it, I remember talking about him right around opening day and like, is this a guy who could be on the roster or how soon could he come up? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then they have the need. He comes up and he performs, and
Yeah.
he looks like he's on his way to sticking in the rotation. I think it was last week we were talking about, does he get the ball in October?
Yeah.
And to go from that to this, yeah, I mean, super deflating for him. Obviously, I'm sure that there's a whole bunch of emotion that he's experiencing at this point. But yeah, not great news for a team. Talking about the team on the field, not great
Yeah.
news for a team that is in desperate need of starting pitching at this point.
Yeah, and brutal timing for him. He turns 26 on Saturday, so I'm guessing this wasn't the 26th birthday present that he was hoping for.
Yeah.
But let's talk about recovery. I mean, we were talking just before coming on. In a sense, there's sort of a positive here in that he's going to get the surgery and quickly. We were joking about how the Dodgers sometimes try and delay this process, try and rehab, try and sort of do some strengthening stuff to avoid it. At this point, given where we are on the calendar, it feels like the right decision to just have him go ahead and do it. It's bizarre to say this out loud. He will miss the entire 2025 season, and we are talking about 2026 as when we might next see River Ryan. But I was just digging in a little bit on Tommy John and where we're at. So let me throw some numbers and history at you. According to the Associated Press, over 2,400 Major League Baseball players have now had Tommy John surgery, which is the reconstruction of the UCL in their elbow. And more than half of those, though, in the last 10 years. So the surgery's been out for 50 years. Half of the surgeries done at the major league level have been in just the last 10 years. Dr. Neil Elitrosh, who's the Dodgers team physician, is on record as estimating an 80% success rate, where success is defined as guys returning to pre-surgery level. So some success stories. Jacob deGrom had it, came back to win a Cy Young. Justin Verlander had it late in his 30s, came back to win a Cy Young. Zach Wheeler, kind of a more present tense name, had it in 2015. He just signed a contract for $255 million. Even Rich Hill had Tommy John in 2011, Anthony, and he's still trying to pitch in the major leagues. But maybe the best example and sort of the closest comp would be a guy who's actually his teammate, which is Tyler Glasnow. He had what's called the hybrid procedure, which is kind of the new approach to Tommy John. It's a traditional Tommy John merged with what they call the internal brace procedure, where they add sort of a synthetic to the ligament in hopes of offering sort of a longer lasting process here. It's the same thing Ohtani had last September. It doesn't speed up the recovery timeline from everything I was reading, but it's more of a long-term thing. If anything, it's actually extended the recovery time because they want to give sort of the synthetic ligaments more time to mature. So the rehab process, no throwing for 4 to 6 months. Then it's 2 months of long toss, 6 weeks of flat ground pitching. So if you do the math on that, you're talking about basically 9 months of before you're even throwing off of a mound.
Yeah.
And then there's the buildup off of that. So that's what we're looking at for River Ryan, meaning, again, all of 2025 will be off of the table, especially for a guy his age who has such a bright future. And it's crazy. We're looking at 2026, Anthony. But I think in all of that, there is some positive news in that I don't think this is like a career ender death knell in maybe the way it felt 10 years ago.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I mean, I think that at this point, I mean, look at Walker Buehler, another teammate, right? Like
Yeah.
this second one may not be going so great in terms of returning to pre-surgery form,
Yeah.
but he had that first one, and he became a guy who
Before he got drafted, I believe he had Tommy John either right before or maybe right after. They knew he was
I
going to need
think
it.
they knew he was going to get it when
Yeah.
they drafted him. I think that's what it was. But anyway, they drafted him knowing he was not going to pitch that first year that he was
Yeah.
in the organization. And he's a guy who turned into be a Cy Young candidate after that first one. So yeah, I think you're right about that. Um, I think we've gotten to a point where a guy has it, and the first thoughts are he's out for a year,
Yeah.
he'll be back.
Yeah.
I
Exactly.
think it's gotten that sophisticated where like that's sort of the expectation now, as opposed to like, oh, we'll see if he ever makes it back.
Yeah.
Um, so it's not the complete like is his career over kind of
Yeah.
surgery anymore. But again, he's a guy who hasn't fully proven himself, at this level. And for this to happen and for him to miss an entire year building off of what he's starting to become, that's tough. I mean,
Yeah.
it's got to be tough mentally. They say, especially for a pitcher where you're not able to do the thing
Yeah.
that you are paid to do for a half a year, like at all, that's
Yeah.
that's hard, man. That's mentally taxing for you because your mindset is like, I got to work to get back, and you're not allowed to do that work for that long.
Yeah.
um it's I think Jeff Passan wrote about this in his book The Arm a few years back about just the mental toll that this surgery takes on pitchers.
Yeah.
And I think these, especially younger guys, maybe guys who have never had it before, like River Ryan, where you sort of know what it entails because you know enough guys now in your own clubhouse
Yeah.
probably to say like, yes, I understand that part of it. To be in it has got to be a completely different beast.
Yeah.
So here's wishing him good luck, not just with the surgery, but in trying to stay healthy mentally to make sure that he's able to recover and get through this time because it's going to be tough. It's got to be for
Yeah.
a guy who, his entire life and dreams have been based on him throwing a baseball.
Yeah, and a guy whose financial future is entirely wrapped up, like, he hasn't secured that yet because
Right.
of the way that young guys are pitched, but, they're are paid, but, yeah, imagine waking up on August 13th, 2024, and knowing that March of 2026 is the next time you have a chance of pitching in the major leagues.
Yeah.
Again, I think the success rate is encouraging, but to know that you've gotta work at something and know that you're not gonna see any reward or payoff for 18 months is really challenging. I will say this, and I know this is gonna some people are gonna hate that I say this because they don't trust the Dodgers, which to each their own. Clearly, the Dodgers believe in this surgery enough to where they went and traded for Tyler Glasnow and gave him a lot of money and an extension after having received it, knowing that Otani just got this surgery in September and then gave him $700 million. So I think again, actions speak louder than words. It's one thing for the Dodgers to say, hey, we think he's going to be fine. For them to be actively paying almost $825 million to guys who are coming off of these surgeries last offseason, I think speaks to their own internal confidence in the first time. And I saw lots of Dodger fans saying, like, hey, the track record of coming back from this isn't great. But you made the point about Walker Buehler. Buehler's coming back from it for a second time. And we could point to a lot of things as to maybe why Walker Buehler had to have Tommy John a second time, some ways that he was used. He volunteered to be used to help the team,
Yeah.
that sort of a thing. But Walker Buehler is not Walker Buehler's second Tommy John surgery is not the roadmap for River Ryan's first Tommy John surgery.
For sure.
If anything, go look at the Walker Buehler for 5 or 6 years prior to this second Tommy John surgery. And I think that's optimistically, as a Dodgers fan, what you might be able to look towards.
And I think for this second one, there are probably other things at play aside from the strength of his elbow.
Yep.
You can
Age.
discount velocity and stuff like that, and that's totally fair. But I think if your elbow's not healthy from the surgery part of it, you're
Yeah.
not touching 96, 97 the way he has been,
Yeah.
and getting those velo numbers up to where he was previously. So I think in terms of that, even he has probably been a success in terms of like just the health of the part of the body that he had surgery on.
Totally. And he's just an older guy. So, like,
Yeah.
expecting him to come back. I mean, I told you the story of Verlander, who got the surgery at like 36, 37, and then won a Cy Young. I mean, that's the outlier. Most guys, as they age, the velocity and stuff diminishes. So, the second Tommy John is typically coming in a guy who's already on the downward slope of his career. So, again, breaking news this morning: River Ryan will undergo Tommy John surgery. They haven't announced the timeline, but you can pretty much assume he will miss all of next season in addition to the remainder of this one. That is Anthony Witrado. I am Jeff Spiegel. We will both be back tonight for a post-game show. Reminder, early game, 5:10 p.m. game. So a post-game show probably right around 7:45, 8-ish. So be sure to be here on the Dodger Blue YouTube page to join us for that. Should be hopefully a fun one. Hopefully a fifth win in a row. Gavin Stone on the mound for the Dodgers, who are favored against the Milwaukee Brewers. But check out DodgerBlue.com for all the latest information, a write-up on the River Ryan story, as well as any more details that come out. And then, of course, any updates from Dave Roberts, that kind of thing that come pregame, we'll have all that for you covered. That is Anthony. I am Jeff. Enjoy the rest of your day, folks. Hopefully we see you tonight. And as always, go Dodgers.